You're looking at two Billy Joel fans here in the Oklahoma's video studio. One of Billy Joel's better songs. Steve knows exactly where I'm going with this. It's scenes from an Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
The music is stopping at the Spaghetti Warehouse in Bricktown. Steve Blackmeyer joins us from the business desk with some information. What did we learn this morning?
Last chance for a bottle of red, bottle of white there at Spaghetti Warehouse. You know, Spaghetti Warehouse was what lit the fuse for Bricktown to become what it is today.
70s, 80s.
We're talking about the effort to turn this old warehouse district into a special place. Started with Neil Horton in '79, and his effort went bankrupt in '84 with just a handful of buildings that were partially renovated. But there's really no momentum until Spaghetti Warehouse came in 1989. It was started by Bob Hawk in Dallas in their West End in 1972, and there was aspirations for Bricktown to be just as successful as West End. Ironically, so many years later, West End is a ghost of its former self, and Bricktown is still the premier urban entertainment district. So, and Spaghetti Warehouse made that happen.
And that's still like the anchor corner in Bricktown.
Oh, it's a huge corner. It's the most prime piece of real estate in the district, which makes this more than a story about a beloved restaurant closing. Albeit, there's a lot of people who have great memories of this.
In fact, Steve has asked people on social media if you have a good story about the Spaghetti Warehouse, you can share it with Steve on Twitter at Steve Blackmeyer, or you can email him or whatever, because there'll be plenty of ongoing coverage about this.
And we're getting good response to that. We've got videos, birthday parties, people who were little kids when they first started going to their family ended up getting proposals there. Brian Winkler, someone we both know very well, he started going there when he was a teenager, and he went there just Saturday night with his kids and his parents.
And that was the thing.
It's a favorite place.
Nobody kind of saw this story coming right now.
Well, let's back up a second. So it was a beloved destination. You know, 1,800 people lined up to go in there the first day it was open in 1989.
It's a lot of pasta.
Yeah, and you got to remember, back in 1989, the best of lists had Olive Garden as our favorite Italian. Now it's 2016, and it's a very different Oklahoma City, and I assure you Olive Garden is no longer winning best of for Italian food. You've got a little competition.
Olive Garden salad
it's fine.
And the
I'm not dissing
most of the best best ofs right now are more locally based.
Yes, yeah, and so and Spaghetti Warehouse falls into that. But it was still a favorite destination for families, for people to do something that was special. Where in the early years, it's where you took people to show off downtown because there wasn't much else to show off.
I remember my parents taking me there, and I was telling you, Steve, they have a train car in there, right?
Yeah, they've got an old Oklahoma City streetcar in there. That's something that Bob Hawk liked to do, is find an old streetcar from that city if they had them and put them in the middle of the dining room. So, and it's got all this antique decor. And I wrote just a few years ago, I was in there for the first time in maybe 5 or 6 years. And it was just kind of interesting to look around, and it's the same. So it's like 2000s nostalgia for 1980s nostalgia of early 20th century nostalgia, if that all makes sense. You know, it's like a double
bit of a vortex
twist
there.
Yeah, it's actually, the nostalgia now is for when we did that kind of nostalgia 40 years ago. But this is a real estate play. I'm really thinking we're looking at something bigger here.
So, Steve, you've been talking with some people today. What are you hearing, and what are you working on?
Okay, so let's remember that Bob Hawk bought this building for what was really a great price back then, $300,000. This building, based on other property sales nearby, like the Middeke Building and others, it's worth millions. Okay, now, Spaghetti Warehouse had to sell off its real estate during one of the early bankruptcies in the late 90s. So the restaurant chain is no longer associated with the property ownership. And that's flipped a few times. It's now in the hands of a real estate investment trust in New York. And the local development community has been very frustrated in their dealings with this REIT. It's got 7 stories and just 6 were never developed.
I was about to say, the upstairs, people are looking at that as this would be prime property. These windows that are bricked in here, they could be something.
It's amazing. You've got this window pattern on the whole building facing Oklahoma and Sheridan Avenue. Great.
Pretty good views.
This is the best old historic building, and the last one that's really way under its development potential.
Just sitting there.
Yeah, but the REIT, they refused to answer the calls of one very prominent developer. Another developer, and I'll be going into all the details of my story tomorrow, but another developer actually had an LOI with them. It was non-binding, and they just never would sign the bottom line. And they had gone through all the plans on how to do this. This was a story I was quietly tracking. This is one of those things that you don't report on until you know it's going to be a real deal. And I never felt like it was there yet, so that's why I never reported on it.
It's called journalism, people.
Yeah, but it was, this is something that's been going on behind the scenes over the last 3 or 4 years. And so a restaurant closing would be necessary in order to make that upstairs space viable. And I'll be going into all the details on that. I will also say one of the things that was a problem on this building before is it had no parking. Not only did it have no parking, but there was insufficient nearby parking that could be tapped into for you to turn this into housing or offices upstairs. And it's likely housing, but you need to park them and there's no place. Well, Don Karchmer is about to build a garage across the street.
So that could change that.
Could that be a factor in what's going on? Because again, note, Spaghetti Warehouse, they're saying they hope to reopen the Oklahoma City market. So what we have is we've got a New York REIT that is very unresponsive. We've got a development community that's very frustrated with them that they wouldn't do a deal.
They're looking to move.
And we
As in move
have
forward with something.
something going on across the street that makes that property potentially far more valuable and viable because we'll have a garage across the street. Something may be at play, and that's what we got to figure out. But you can look at all this, and the only thing that doesn't make sense is why would you do this now when oil's at $28, $29 per barrel, and the Oklahoma economy is not necessarily as prime for an expensive development as it might have been just even a year ago. So I will keep on trying to reach the owners, but until then, we've got an intriguing story on our hands.
You can find more coverage of the Spaghetti Warehouse, which, by the way, we should say closes on Tuesday. We're taping this on Monday, so you have a few more hours to grab some Spaghetti Warehouse pasta. More coverage from Steve Blackmeyer in the Oklahoman and online at newsok.com. Steve, thank you.
Thank you.